Nawal, firstly, welcome to the Legal Brew.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, just to introduce who you are, you're Nawal Bin Sheikh, and you are a solicitor apprentice for the amazing firm which is Simmons & Simmons. So, thank you for coming on to the Legal Brew. I wanted to get you on for a number of different reasons, and I think lots of people are going to find this conversation to be interesting because there's a lot to your background. And when we spoke a couple of weeks ago, I just thought, I love your energy, what you're doing, and I think you're such a good advocate for the solicitor apprentice route. And there's been a lot of conversation about solicitor apprentices over the last few years. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. So I think we're going to clear up a lot of that today. And you told me, when we spoke the other day, that the apprenticeship scheme for lawyers has actually been around for 8 years, I think you said?
Yeah, a little bit over now.
8 years. I didn't realise, to be quite honest, it had been that long because it's so current in the industry media. I thought that it was more recent than that. So I will say from the get-go that I'm a massive fan of the apprenticeship scheme in general. We've had many apprenticeships here, and I think they're absolutely great for people that don't want to go and incur lots of debt. So to begin with, tell me about your story, because legal wasn't your first career path.
Yeah, no, law definitely wasn't my first option. So I think the best place to probably start was A-levels. I studied biology, chemistry and history, so definitely more sciencey of a mix rather than kind of the traditional what a aspiring lawyer would kind of go down with. And if you hadn't guessed already, I wanted to be a doctor. And so I took biology and chemistry specifically with the intention of applying for medicine. And I did actually apply for medicine in year 13. I applied for 4 medical schools. And when you apply for medicine, you have to apply for a backup option. And so my backup option was pharmacy at UCL.
Not even law?
No. My personal statement definitely would have been an interesting read if I had decided to apply for law with my final option. And so I actually did all of the tests needed. So I sat something called the BMAT, which is now no longer in use. And I also sat the UCAT in the summer leading up to the application process. And I actually submitted the applications, and then somewhere kind of along the lines, I think around February, because you submit your applications initially in October 15. That is the dreaded day when you have to submit your medical application. And you just have to wait around quite a while, to be honest, and you get a couple of rejections. I definitely got a couple of rejections based on different things along the way. And I just started to feel really disillusioned. I started to really question what I wanted. And a lot of my friends and my family members, especially one who's really close to me, just kept asking me, why do you want to be a doctor? What is the actual reason? And I would give them the same kind of rehearsed answer that I had practiced.
What was the reason because you explained to me sort of when we spoke initially, it was kind of, that was seen for you as kind of what I want to almost call the preferred career path from a family perspective.
Yeah. I think, traditionally, like in my culture, what your parents want of you is really important. From a social mobility perspective, if you are from a low socioeconomic background, becoming a doctor is a very well-respected career. And it's one of the few careers that a lot of people from immigrant backgrounds, like my own parents, kind of understand, at least to a certain extent. So they know if you become a doctor, then you'll have security. It's an aspiring career. It's difficult to get into, but it's very well respected. And so given that I had studied hard and worked hard and I had quite good grades, my parents thought, this is the best thing for you. Whereas if you said to them a lawyer, they couldn't tell you any lawyer or really understand what lawyers do.
So you had, people were asking you about why do you want to be a doctor? Really sort of drilling down. You were obviously sidestepping that because deep within you there was a burning desire that this wasn't what you wanted to do. And you got very far down the line.
I did, yeah. My cousin took me to meet her friend who was a pharmacist, who sat me down and said, if you don't want to be a pharmacist, reject that pharmacy offer. It doesn't matter if it's from UCL and you like the building and you like the people. If you don't like the content, you're not going to enjoy the course and you're not going to enjoy your career. You will always regret it, is what she said. And she said, if you want to do medicine, my best friend is a doctor and she will mentor you. But it sounds like you don't want to do both. So first take a step back and really think about what it is that you want to do. And so my head was kind of going in all sorts of directions and I wasn't really sure. And the reason why at that point my cousin had taken me to meet her friend was because I had seen an Instagram advert And
Of course it was Instagram.
It was
Of course.
advertising solicitor apprenticeships. Actually, it was the first application I decided to apply for. Quite randomly, it said, you'll be debt free, you'll get paid a salary, and you'll qualify in 6 years as a lawyer. And I just thought, that actually sounds great. Salary, debt free, sign me up. And I remember telling my parents at the time, and they said, well, why would you do that? You've applied for medicine. I don't understand why you would. And I said, just to keep my options open. But deep down, I knew. I think I knew at that point, if I got this offer, there would be no more medicine in my future.
So and the advantages, and I want to say this about the solicitor apprenticeship route is, you explained to me, it's a 6-year process, which off the cuff of it sounds like a long time. And we'll delve into this in a moment. But, when we spoke, you told me that it's no different in length to having gone through the other process. And, I want to be clear with people about what the advantages are. You're getting paid as opposed to paying. And obviously most people who come out the other side of a training contract, the amount of debt is just staggering. Actually, I'm not going to steal your thunder. We'll talk about the apprenticeship in a moment. So you applied for the apprenticeship, but you found that your experiences of the application process, that there wasn't a lot of resource.
No, definitely not. I think, especially when I had applied, there weren't very many kind of prominent solicitor apprentices. There weren't very many people talking about it. It wasn't like university or a UCAS personal statement where you could Google it and there'd be loads of resources that came up. So it was definitely hard. And law is a corporate career, and so the application process is quite tough. It matches that. And it's pretty much the same application process as the graduate application process. And so asking my family wasn't really an option. Not many of them have, they don't have any corporate careers, and a lot of them work in healthcare or quite sciencey backgrounds, and so they weren't really able to support me with this, and so that's kind of why.
How did you navigate it? How did you put your best foot forward if there was nothing out there for you to use as a resource point?
I think a lot of it was luck, to be completely honest with you. A lot of it was luck. And I think some of it was just Googling different things. So I did use graduate resources because I thought, this kind of sounds similar, so maybe it'll be useful. And at the time I didn't realise it was really useful because it was the same application process. But the difference is, as an aspiring apprentice, you're being assessed at 18 years old or 19 years old, so quite young. And so they're looking more for potential rather than kind of achievement. And so it was all about the way you phrased it. And that's why I say it was a lot of luck. It was kind of trying to understand my experiences and linking them back to law. What was it about me that, one, I really wanted to study law? And two, what was it about me that would help me kind of stand out? What experiences would translate really well into a career in law? And kind of understanding that and owning that, I think, is what helped me get far in the application process.
Great. So you obviously got the job, which is good news. And you started at Simmons & Simmons as a solicitor apprentice in January 23. So
September 2022.
Oh, September 2022.
Yes.
There we go. So you've been there now for a bit years. And talk me through how it's worked, because when we spoke last time, and I thought this was really interesting, it's not in any way like a conventional training contract where you would spend the 6 months in one department and rotating. And my view on the training contract is, the traditional training contract is, as soon as you're just getting your feet under the desk in one area, you're back to the next area. And a trainee comes out as an NQ, but they don't really have that much experience. And sometimes what happens is you get a trainee qualify and they want to qualify into the first seat, but that was 18 months ago they had that experience. So this is different. Talk me through what you've done in this time and how it works.
Yeah, I think the benefit of the solicitor apprenticeship is definitely that you're able to do a lot longer seats. So for example, at Simmons, my traditional seat's about 15 months long, so a year and 3 months-ish, so quite a long time.
That is a long time.
Yeah, and today, so as you said, I've been at Simmons for about 2 and a bit years. Coming up, this is my 3rd year now as solicitor apprentice, and so I've actually spent time in 7 different teams.
That's a lot, that's a lot.
Our structure is a little bit different, and kind of every solicitor apprenticeship structure is quite unique to the firm itself, and I guess that's another benefit. It's the fact that the firm is able to kind of help tailor you and help ensure that you're the best type of lawyer for the job. And so for me, it's a Simmons lawyer, but if you're at another firm, you would be tailored to whatever they specialise in and what they really value in terms of that. So I started off in business services, spent some time in HR, marketing, business development, and also finance. And really that's to get an understanding of the firm, because, you know, at the end of the day, a law firm is a business. And so understanding how law firms make money is quite important, because I think a lot of people can get caught up in the fact that, you know, lawyers, they go to the firm and they do their job, but you forget all of the background, which is really important, because without business services, the lawyers wouldn't be able to function.
They wouldn't,
their
no.
day job. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really great. I then spent some time in the Office of the General Counsel, which a lot of people don't know about, but I really enjoyed my time there. The Office of the General Counsel lawyers, I like to describe as the lawyers for the lawyers. They help protect the firm, they create all of the policies, the mitigating things, they sort out the problems when they arise and prevent them from arising in the first place. And they're kind of the ones responsible for making sure that, you know, the firm is running well.
Is that where the PSLs live?
No, it's in the PSL.
Oh, okay.
So some PSLs live in the specific team, so a corporate PSL will live within the corporate team. But with the Office of the General Counsel, for example, let's say Companies House has had an update and the law has changed, they will make sure that they're on top of that update, so the firm is complying with all of the regulations. And it goes across the same internationally. Let's say we're opening up a new office, for example, they'll be really involved from the get-go, understanding all of the risks. So they really play quite a central role, and I think a lot of people kind of forget about what they do, but it's definitely
you sort of one of those departments that you forget about, but if they weren't there, you'd soon know about it.
Yes, exactly.
The unsung heroes. So I think what's really interesting is the fact that you are spending this time in the back office side of things, because most trainees do not get that experience. And the fact that you're doing the extended seats as well, it's very, very interesting. And I think that you going through this process, you are going to have far much more experience than the average newly qualified by the time you come on the market. You know, I always look at candidates as well, newly qualified candidates, as you know, what's that person's background? Have they had pre-paralegal experience? But I think it's a great route. How have you found, you know, the reception? What are people like for the solicitor apprentice? You know, they're not saying, oh, off you go, Nawal, go and make us the cup of teas. You know, are you being embraced across the firm?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think a lot of people thought that, you know, the main job would be making teas and coffees. But I mean, if you're going to pay me a whole salary just to make teas and coffees, then you'd sign me up. But no, definitely not. The firm is really welcoming. They are really encouraging on the solicitor apprenticeship scheme. And especially at the beginning, it was really great kind of talking to people about the solicitor apprenticeship scheme and this alternative route to qualification. And I remember one of the initial conversations that I had with somebody quite senior who said, you know, the solicitor apprenticeship isn't a new thing, it's just been rebranded and given a new name. Once upon a time we had to do something called clerking for 2 years, which essentially was the same thing. We had to do all of this experience and then we would get the job. And so solicitor apprenticeships aren't new, they've just been rebranded, but everybody across the firm is really supportive and keen for us to succeed. They help us from professionally in understanding how to develop and building a network, to also personally and making sure, you know, that we're on track with everything and we're able to actually succeed because we have the best of both worlds.
Have you had conversations with the conventional trainees and crossed paths and sort of compared notes and, you know, what's been their reaction to you know, the comparison between your route and their route? Because you're getting a lot more exposure in a way, and, you know, you're not accruing the debt. What's been their views on it?
Yeah, I think that's probably the first thing that comes up is, oh, wow, you've got a lot of experience, or you're going to have a lot of experience, which is true. And I speak to lots of people who kind of are coming through the traditional route and they kind of say, oh, I wish I had done the solicitor apprenticeship, or I wish it had been around. And I was speaking to just an associate yesterday and she was saying, I think the solicitor apprenticeship is such a great scheme. You get so much experience, there's no debt. And right now the training contract route is so completely, you know, oversaturated and it's so competitive to get it. But solicitor apprenticeships are now growing to the point where they're also very, very competitive to get. And so when I applied 2.5 years ago, it wasn't half as near competitive as it is now, but it was less competitive than training contracts. Whereas I think now solicitor
people are waking up.
Yeah, they're starting to catch up.
They are. You've got me at the right time. I think as well I do think there's a bit of snobbery with the word apprentice. I think when you think of apprentice, a lot of people have a negative connotation to that word and think that it's not as good. And I really like the fact that you know, legal have embraced this. Lots of white collar organisations are embracing apprentice because, you know, I think that there's so much value that can be added. So I love the fact that you're flying the flag for that. So I want to talk about, because one thing that really jumped out to me with you was what you have done with mylaunchpad, and it's interesting because you have now started to become, well, you have become an ambassador for the apprenticeships in so many regards, because you're now helping others. Tell us about the story behind mylaunchpad and what it's all about.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, it was really hard finding resources for solicitor apprenticeships.
There was nothing?
No,
there was nothing out
I was
there?
scrolling through things like the student room to try and find snippets and bits and bob, and there was maybe kind of one person who had spoken about their experience as a solicitor apprentice. And so one of the main things that I had to do was reach out to a lot of different people on LinkedIn. But when I gained my solicitor apprenticeship, a lot of people started reaching out, and I started realising why it was so hard. And so me and 3 other solicitor apprentices at different firms across the city kind of put our heads together, and we said, we want to help people. We had seen one company who was supporting aspiring solicitor apprentices, but they were charging, and it really rubbed me the wrong way. It didn't make sense to me.
It fired something within you.
Yeah, £40-50 an hour for aspiring solicitor apprentices, specifically targeting people from low socioeconomic backgrounds. It didn't make any sense to me, especially if you're from a low socioeconomic background. You definitely wouldn't be able to afford £40-50 an hour.
It's a lot of money for an hour, yeah.
And you're not guaranteed a solicitor apprenticeship at the end of it. And so we said, we want to help people. And the way we've decided to help people is through mentoring people specifically from low socioeconomic backgrounds, because that's the background that we're from. And so that's where it started. We kind of started with about 10 mentees in a really small program, engaging our friends to kind of support us and giving one-to-one support, and just, being there almost like a big sister or a big brother, and being there to answer all of their questions, the questions they're really not going to get answered somewhere else, and helping them, everything from reviewing applications to practicing interviews, because at the end of the day, the support that you need for a solicitor apprenticeship is a lot, and it goes across all apprenticeship applications. It's not the same as a UCAS application, because with UCAS, you might not even have to do an interview if it's not a very competitive subject that you're applying for. And so you probably have no practice whatsoever with interviews. Teachers are either not very well equipped to help you and support you through the process, or they're just not very supportive. But I think now the narrative has definitely shifted, and it is a lot better than before. And so that's what we started. We now have about 70 mentees, just over
my goodness.
Across 2 programs, a group mentoring and a one-to-one mentoring sessions, and 40 amazing mentors who the vast majority are also from low socioeconomic backgrounds themselves. So they're keen to give back and, just make sure they're not pulling up the ladder with them, and help other people kind of break into law, which is, really difficult.
It's becoming a full-time job in its own right. How did it feel when one of your first mentorees secured the elusive solicitor apprenticeship?
It was so exciting, and we were talking about this the other day, because on this year's scheme, a couple of people have started to get offers, and it's almost better than when you got the offer initially yourself, because you've been able to give back and help someone who, without your support, might not have been able to reach their full potential. And so it's so exciting that this person is now going to enter the world of law and then also be able to help other people. The great thing with mylaunchpad is that a lot of our mentors, so out of the first scheme, 5 of them were successful, and 4 of them have come back and are now mentors to their own mentees. So it's a little bit of a full circle moment, and so they're continuously giving back, and that's what we're really keen to do, to keep going, to keep supporting more and more students through resources. So we're on all social media.
It's kind of like the system of Alcoholics Anonymous, where once you heal, you then become a mentor to help other people. It's like what do I want to call it? Like a food chain system. It works well. Once you've been helped, you want to help others. There's obviously going to be people watching this video who are going to be watching this because they want a solicitor apprenticeship. So if they want to find out more, where can they go to find out about mylaunchpad? So
mylaunchpad is on LinkedIn, so you can drop us a message there, or you can also send me a message on LinkedIn, or drop me an email at nawal@mylaunchpad.uk.
I want to ask then, so what advice would you give to someone then who might be watching this video that wants a solicitor apprenticeship? What would you say to them?
I think go for it. I think that's the first thing.
Good. I like that.
I think solicitor apprentices are great. Definitely not biased coming from me. But look, the 6-year scheme is a long time. 6 years sounds like a long time right off the bat, but it is a long-term investment. I personally think solicitor apprentices are more likely to set the firm. They are more likely to be tailored specifically to your firm and the needs, and really understand the values and the people at your firm. They're really going to be able to be, great ambassadors for the firm and carry on. But also over the 6 years, you meet so many people in different areas of the firm. So you really have a really great holistic understanding of the firm specifically and how it works. So one of the benefits I always say is, because I spent time in conflicts and AML, I know who to go to for which question. I know the right person and the right contact. And I think that's really underestimated. And a few people come to me and say, you were sitting in this team, weren't you? Do you know who I should go for this? And I'll be like, yeah, you should go to X person for this. And so that's quite useful. But I think clarity is the most important thing, because solicitor apprentices, aspiring solicitor apprentices will be 18, 19 years old.
It's young.
Very young. And so the more information you give, the more you have to make sure that it's really specific. And I saw one firm who did this really well, actually, and they just launched this year. And it's being very clear, things like your entry requirements. A lot of people, at 18, 19, you think, I will apply anyway because I might be the one that just slips through, and so they'll get an unnecessary rejection. Whereas if you're very clear on your firm website, if you do not meet this entry requirement, unfortunately you will not be considered. It will definitely save a lot of heartbreak, because a lot of the same questions I get and we get at MLP is, I've just missed the grade by 1 grade. Can I still apply? Am I still able to, or, this happened to me at X time, do I get mitigating circumstances? So having something really simple as a really detailed FAQ will definitely save, HR's inbox, and also make sure that the the students understand what's going on at each step of the process.
Well, I guess, there's going to be, like you said, a lot of people applying. And, it's at the beginning stages of the process, it's a paper sifting exercise.
Yeah.
What do you do to because one of the big things, if you're a young person, you're going into interview, you've not interviewed before, and I have to say, I think schools and universities need to do, and I've said this for so many years now, need to do more to prepare people for what life is like in the real world, because the amount of people that go through a law degree, come out the other side, expecting the market to be, you're a graduate, there's loads of opportunities, and they come out and actually it's quite tough. What would you say to people to empower them and get them, interview ready if they've not been in that environment before?
Practice. I think the main thing is public speaking, and a lot of people either hate or love public speaking, unfortunately, but I don't think public speaking should be a hate or love thing. It has to be something that you learn to love, if not by force, because public speaking helps you with everything. It helps you become more confident with interviews. It helps you conduct yourself, when you're speaking to colleagues, or, you're speaking. It doesn't necessarily have to be, speaking to a crowd of hundreds of people. It's just, the way you're able to carry yourself as a result of that self-confidence. And so when I see students and we practice interviews, at the beginning, you'll very quickly find that, they're stumbling over their words, or they keep looking down, or they can't maintain eye contact. And that's because they're not really confident in what they're saying. And I always say to students, fake it until you make it, specifically like Anna Delvey is the example I give. I mean, she got so far because she was so confident in herself and what she was saying. And that's the kind of level of delusion you have to have. You have to believe that you can do it. You have to be confident. And if you're confident, you're almost halfway there, because a lot of the time, especially at the solicitor apprenticeship, a big thing is your delivery and understanding how are you promoting yourself, because you are an investment to firms. They're going to be investing about £250,000 if you actually do the maths over the 6 years, and so it is a lot of money. So if you were sitting in front of Lord Sugar, how would you fight, and how would you say, you should invest in me for this? And so a lot of people don't like it, but you are a product, and so understanding what is unique about you, what are your strong suits, and how do they translate into that career in law is how you can really build a case as to why you would be a good solicitor apprentice and a strong investment.
I think as well, you make so many good points. I'm a big believer in fake it till you make it. It's like that whole thing of, dressing for the job that you want.
Yeah.
And, you know, I when I first started in recruitment, it was very much fake it till you make it. And eventually, you know, you do make it. So I think that's really, really interesting. And you made another point there, which is you've got to learn to be a public speaker. You told me when we last spoke that being in front of the camera and stuff is not your natural it's not your natural strength, but you wouldn't know that because you come across so eloquent and confident and whatever. So it's really interesting. So if you do want to find out more, then you know where to find them all. And I'm sure you're going to be inundated with people. Thank you so much for flying the flag for Solicitor Apprenticeships. You know, I think you're doing a great job, and I agree with you. I think they're so valuable, and there's no surprise why so many people are trying to go for them now. So thank you for coming on to the Legal Brew.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.